Hey, welcome to another afternoon live stream on a Saturday with Stop the FOMO and our good buddy Be The Installer. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm fantastic, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. You know, it's a Saturday. It's relaxing. Oh,
Can't
Tech
complain.
Med Rainer Richter, man. Thank you so
Wow.
much. I'm like, what? Where did that? Did you mean to do that? And thank you, buddy. We will definitely answer whatever questions you have today.
That's
and
awesome.
well, the theme today is, have we reached peak TV? Right? And I tell you, after 2018, 2019, 2020, and now 2021. The reason I kind of want to talk about this is, well, I posted up the prices real quick so you guys have an idea of where we are in terms of pricing. And a lot of people are saying, no, we're not at peak TV yet. So let's talk about what I think peak TV really means and what people's expectation are when they buy a new TV. So when I say peak TV, we'll start with non-OLEDs, because that one is where a lot of the improvements are. We're talking QLED TVs, we're talking the Sony X95J, X90J, TCL, Hisense, and the Samsung QLED series, right? When I say peak, it means that wherever they were in 2019, here we are in 2021. And a lot of the improvements to me are like, how do they describe it? Moving the deck chairs on the Titanic. And the reason I say that is today I was doing a review on the Q90A and I noticed, hey, you know what? I love its darkroom performance, but this HDR appears to be there. I'm losing some detail because it got really bright. And so I moved the dimming zone down to low, and then the bright highlights came back, but it was less bright. And then I looked at the Q900TS, like, wait a minute, now it looks just like the Q900TS. So I was like, okay, so obviously Q90 wants to be brighter, and it is, but it lost those specular highlight details by being brighter. And the Q900TS was already there last year. It just couldn't get bright. And so I'm seeing Samsung going back and forth, trying to get that right combination that reviewers and users would like, but ultimately it's not getting better. It's just changing the algorithm or changing what they think viewers want, but it's not raising the bar. It's not like super bright and color detail. It's just either super bright or color detail. And guys, I know I've been working on the microphone. Let me know if my voice is muffled or low. I think I fixed it. So, just a quick.
It sounds good to me,
good.
man.
Yeah, I know it sounds good
great
to you guys. For some reason, when I go back to video editor, I'm like, oh, I'm so muffled. So
I think it sounds good overall. I noticed it last time when it was a little bit different.
soft.
It was a little, I think Technodad was a little higher, you were a little lower, but it sounds pretty solid today.
Right. Thanks. So so this is the QLED. It's the Q90A, and it has 800 dimming zones. And yes, its darkroom performance is better than 900TS, but people get the QLED for its brightness more so than its darkroom performance, and its brightness is a little bit better, but it's not a huge jump over the Q90T. A lot of people are saying, well, the Q90T is just barely less bright, but yes, the darkroom performance isn't as good. And then you go to OLED, where many of us are saying the G1 is barely an improvement over the G10 or the C10. And I think you have the G1 yet, Brandon?
Not till Wednesday, but I'm excited.
Not till Wednesday. That's right.
Did you hear that I'm going to have the A90J coming Monday, and then I'm having the G1 come Wednesday. So I'll have all four of the new OLEDs in 65-inch in my house at the same time.
I would love, because I'm planning to do the same thing, is if we put all four of them on the same material, right? Calibrated mode, all the same mode. Can you really tell the difference? And I tell you, I'm suspecting we're going to walk away going, huh, they look within 5% of each other. And it goes back to what I was saying about, are we at peak TV, meaning whether it's a 2020 LG C10 or 2021 C1 or even a G1 or even the A90J, right? A lot of people now are saying, oh, the A90J, kind of most content, it looks very similar, right? You got some content where it does kind of rise to its peak brightness, but maybe 80, 90% of the time, it may end up looking the same. So with that in mind, I wanted to put up these prices for people who are planning to buy TV this year. And what you've noticed, I thought was interesting, is the 2021 TCL R635. That's last year's TV. If you go on Amazon, it literally says 2021 because they're just reissuing the exact same TV for 2021, with the exception being they actually raised the prices. It's now 950, whereas last year it started off at under 900 because TCL feels there's nothing to improve. I mean, it was so good last year, they're doing much of the same. So if you're at the $1,000 mark, right, there's no improvement here. I don't care what the 2021 TVs are like. At $1,000, you're pretty much doing better with 2020 models, and nothing in 2021 at 1,000 is really beating this. You're getting the separation at maybe 1,500, but even at 1,500, right? The Q90T is 1,750 now, which is strange because the Q80T is 1,700, so I didn't even list it. But even at the $1,500 mark, they're all 2020 TVs. The only 2021 TV is the X90J at 1,600, which is a little overpriced in my opinion because it doesn't beat out either the X950H or the Q90T. And yet, it's the newest TV, and it's priced right there with last year's 2020 TVs. And then you go into, let's say, up a little bit at 2,000, you have the 2020 LG C10 at 1950, and then just above that, you're back out of OLED into the Sony X95J, which is a regular full-array local dimming at 2,300, and then you go to $2,500. Now you're into all the 2021 TVs, but we already talked about the 2021 TVs are not that much better than the LG C10 from last year. So peak maturity, peak technology, I just get a sense that it feels like the improvements are, you have some. You have the user interface, you have the remote control. Well, what are your thoughts on this, Brandon? Are you feeling the improvements this year?
No, I think you're on point here. Some of these were, I think these are all 65-inch pricing too, right? That's what we're looking at for the most part, right? All these are 65s. Yeah. And I was looking at, for example, like the X900H and the X90J. And then I looked at like the sizes, like the 75-inch. I know these are 65s, but the 75-inch X900H is like $2,200. I'm sorry, that's the 85-inch. So the 75-inch is like $1,599 if I'm not mistaken. And then the 85-inch is like $2,000. So an 85-inch X900H for $2,000. You can't even get the 75-inch of the same, the X90J, that's like $2,600. So I don't think there's going to be much benefit on some of those Sony LEDs. I do feel like the QN90A is a bit of an improvement, like you were saying in the black detail. But I totally agree. Like when I was putting it on, when I lowered the dimming, then I got a lot more blooming, and it just kind of looked more sloppy, like you were saying. It did get a little brighter, but it got a little sloppy. So you're like, oh, cool, it looks more OLED-like, or is it the OLED killer? And it's just not, because even the C10 and the A90J, they had better highlights because they were, they're down to the pixel level, so they don't have to mess around with that dimming zone. Because in the darker scenes, it was like, oh man, this QN90A is just not very great. And then in the brighter scenes, it's like, wow, it's so bright. So I was just battling with that. So overall, I haven't seen anything that really knocked my socks off. I did like the C1 does have a bit better upscaling, and it's a bit more like sharp. So I did like that when I had that three-way comparison. But then, and the A90J is still, I like the A90J. I'm back and forth because I've had a couple little issues with it, but it still is pretty bright. And looking back on some of the footage where I even said in my video that it wasn't that much better than the C1, I see a lot of comments saying it looks pretty good, man. So I think it's, if people want the best new stuff, they're going to think things look a little better. But if they're content, which is hard to be content with a product from a year ago, everybody knows that it's hard to be content, but that's where the deals are for sure.
Yeah. And I love Bill's comment here. If you're buying a TV every year, you're always going to be disappointed because it needs time to evolve, and annual releases are incremental. So I'd like to actually address that, mostly because we do see TVs every year. And the good thing is, given that things are only incrementally improving, getting last year's TV more often than not gets you most of what you're going to get in the current year, right? So this year, 2021, get the 2020 TV. But occasionally you do get that jump. For example, when in 2019, 2020, Panasonic released the GZ2000 and then the HZ2000, that was a huge jump in OLED. Even though we don't get it in the US, that was a huge jump for OLED performance over anything that Sony or LG had put out. And of course, this year is much of the same. So now Panasonic is kind of circling along that as well. But yeah, Bill, you're absolutely right. It is incremental. And if you wait every 5 years or so, sure, it's going to be a big jump. But oftentimes people, when they're buying TVs, they're also looking at, wow, if I can get the latest TV, I'm going to get this amazing experience. And it may not be as amazing as a 2019 TV that you could have bought 2 years ago. So a lot of people holding out for 2023, it may not be, you may be holding out and not getting a new TV when you could have gotten it this year. So that's kind of my point with that.
I've seen a couple of people say like, oh, I have a C9. Should I get the C1? And some people are like, oh, there's a big difference. And I'm just like, I can't imagine there's a big difference. Like if you have a C9 or a C10, I would have, unless you have a secondary space for that TV, that I think that's what you mean exactly. Like the C1 looks and feels exactly the same, besides a minor improvement in the remote and different OS. I wouldn't even call it better. So it's really similar,
Absolutely. Eric Z has an interesting question, very similarly priced, right? You have the 75-inch 8K Z8H and the A90J OLED. Now, obviously, we're talking the larger sizes are pretty expensive. I'd go with the A90J because 8K, even at 75 inches, yes, it's brighter, but darkroom performance is still lacking in Sony's 8K TVs. I'd get the larger A90J. What do you think?
I personally like OLEDs better in general, so it would be tough for me to do this sort of thing. But I did make a point, and I have to just be honest that I said, if I got a 10-inch larger screen, I could see you losing a little quality in order to gain a bigger area. So it depends on what they're looking like. Maybe, if they have a brighter big room, I don't know, maybe, but yeah, it's tough. I mean, it would tough. If you're looking for the best of the Sony, I would just say that the A90J is, the OLED king right now. So it'd be tough not to get that. Maybe they'll think about the 83-inch, huh?
Well, something that you mentioned about the premium on the A90J, I think is people forget is it's not just about image quality. The Master Series will more consistently have a good yield of quality control, meaning they're not going to tolerate as many bad panels as the LG C series or their lower A80J. Not to imply that you will always get a good panel. I know, Brandon, you got the unlucky bad panel, but if it was a C1, maybe it would have taken 2 or 3 swaps to get a better panel. So you're paying extra for the A90J because they are getting rid of more panels to qualify for the Master Series than other models. So that's something to think about. We have a question from Eternal Melancholy. Thank you. We're grateful for your presence. What else can they do to upgrade TVs from the last ones? So I think right now it's quality control. I wish they would focus on what we just talked about is you have this OLED that's really nice, but people are complaining, hey, I got this vertical banding, I got the spider webs, right? We talked about that maybe you can't get rid of it with a pixel refresh. So they're trying to lower the price, and they're trying not to give you that quality control that they used to have maybe 20 years ago in order to hit that price point. To me now, an upgrade is a TV that actually you don't have to swap out in the first 30 days. I mean, what do you think they could do to upgrade the TVs moving forward?
I think that's a good point, man. I mean, I know a lot of people are getting frustrated with some of the quality control. I would say, to still achieve that, I guess people are still looking for that 1000 nit OLED in the US, but is the A90J technically there? Is that are people considering the A90J 1000 nit TV because it can technically get over it? I'm not sure where the Panasonic is. on average, if it's like clearing that threshold in a more, you know, if it's 1,000 nits overall and it's getting there and in brighter scenes, but I doubt it. I would imagine it's got similar ABL situations, full screen, all that. But, you know, that would be the other thing. Or, you know, just a little better shadow detail from some of these TVs in the OLED department. And obviously I would love to see them get the LED TVs, you know, with a quicker dimming algorithm that can keep up and kind of suppress that without losing the highlights. So those would be the things that I could think of. But besides that, I think we are hitting some limits, right?
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Spillage Village, welcome back. Thank you. You're always on our live stream. Does the Evo panel in the G1 really set it apart from the C1 in terms of brightness? Would you rather the C1 over the G1? Was the Evo panel a gimmick? So I love this question because this is what we're struggling. This is the kind of like the crux of my theme on this video is, have we reached peak TV? So Evo, much hype out of CES, right? It's like, oh, we have this whole new generation, but we should have taken a hint. It's called Evo for evolution, not revolution. And although I don't have the TVs myself, various reviewers online on YouTube have had it, and they have the instruments to test it. AV Forums being one. I think maybe Vincent Toe might have some numbers out, and Digital Trends, Caleb has the TV, and they all came to the same conclusion. Barely brighter. On measure, it's just barely 20% brighter on the full screen. And as far as 10% peak, yeah, it's a little bit brighter as well, right? But ultimately, in real content, you're not seeing the huge differences that we expected to see. Let's say the A90J. There was some content that kind of popped. On the G1, people are having a problem separating it from even the C10, you know, forget the C1. Now, in SDR, definitely the G1 is making itself, it's setting itself apart, but then is it setting itself apart from the C1? Because both the C1 and the G1 appear better in SDR. And additionally, you know, the motion and stuff like that are better, but it's better for the C1 as well. So to answer your question, I don't think it's worth the $500 difference going from the C1 to the G1, unless you want that stand, the tripod, or you're hanging on the wall and you really want the super thin. I'm trying to think of the value proposition for the G1. Help me out here, Brandon. What are your thoughts on the G1? When would you get the G1 over the C1 for $500?
Yeah, I would. So here's my thoughts on that are that I would currently right now, I know this isn't part of this question, but currently I think that the C10 is just the deal, right? And then the C1 is slightly better. And I'm excited to put the G1 to the test because I don't use instruments all the time. I really just give it the eye test and I put them in same modes and I check it out. So I'm interested to see the G1. I am super excited to put it on the wall because I think that's the test. I think that's the use case is
Right.
like wall mounting it, flat look on the wall. I'm going to build a little recess area for the power and the HDMI to go inside the wall, perfectly flat against the wall, side profile. When you're walking into a room, you see no TV sticking out, no mount. So in that instance, I'm happy that instead of like last year where the C10 and G10 were literally the same screen and it was the same $500 plus price difference the whole year, at least this year, we're starting off with like a supposed brightness advantage. Maybe it's not significant, but I think it's going to be, you know, one of those things where if you want it wall mounted and you want the best, you go there. If you want the mainstream, you know, put it on a stand, you want a fantastic TV for gaming, all that. I think the prices of the C1 are going to come down dramatically, you know, under 2,000. So I think it's going to separate itself. And I just think that at least this year with the G1, you're going to get a little more than just getting the exact same thing like last year, you know?
Agreed. Michael, thank you for the question. What about panel uniformity in large panels? And that's the other problem is as you get larger up, the size scale, the larger you get, the more likely you get DSC. So even at 65 inches now, we're seeing more DSC than at 55 or even 48. So that's another place for improvement is give us less DSC, better uniformity at the larger sizes. I don't think that's happening anytime soon because they're really pricing it aggressively, but they're cutting corners to get there. All right, so Steven Sanford has a question. I still have a KS8000, big gamer, reluctant to get a new TV, but now, no, I should for all the new bells and whistles. Okay, which TV would I see a noticeable difference from the KS? Definitely, if you want non-OLED, the QN98, noticeable difference, or an OLED, definitely a noticeable difference. So depending on your budget, I'd go with an OLED first if you're okay in a dark room and you don't game on those things that give you burn-in. But if you're in a brighter room and or you're afraid of burn-in, the QL90A gets my unreserved recommendation. I think it's a great TV. And
you want me to chime in on that? That was the KS8000.
Yeah.
I would have to say that TV is amazing. I mean, it doesn't have perfect contrast. You know, like when I put it up, when I have it outside in the dark, it's outside, it's my outside TV now. When it's out there, I can notice a little bit of lack of contrast, but man, is it bright. And in the daytime, when we have it outside, that thing cuts down. I mean, you can see that like it's the Samsung Terrace of this year. You know, I mean, it is bright.
Oh, yes.
So
did you ever see the Terrace? I've only heard about it. It's so
no,
bright.
I mean, I haven't seen it in person, so I'm kind of just, you know, I'm kind of a little bit of BSing there. What I'm saying is it looks super bright. It's unmistakably bright outside. It's crazy. And it's got a good anti-reflective coating. So I like that KS8000. I don't think many things are going to be an upgrade to that TV. I'm still trying to find good upgrades for it in the LED department. And that's why I don't have a good LED TV.
Oh, right. All right. So this is a great question here. UK, Europe have more brands and models than the US. So let's say USA takes some in Europe, have QN90, 94, 95 TV. You know what? It's really interesting. So those are all various cosmetic differences as well, or features. Some have more HDMI ports. I don't know why they do that. I mean, Sony's the same, right? You got the X91, 92, 93, 94, and they're all variations of the same TV, except for the larger size of the 92, but everything else is a different stand or a different port setup, and I don't get it. And that's another thing is, you know, the US doesn't have the same brands. We don't have Philips, we don't have Panasonic, and it's mostly our fault because no one buys them, by the way. Like, have you ever bought a Philips or a Panasonic in the past, Brandon?
No, I mean, I never really liked the Philips TVs. When I installed them, they were always big and bulky and just slow and everything. So never a big fan. I had a pair of Philips headphones I took back because they weren't even close to being as good as the Sony XM4s. You know, so yeah, I haven't had great luck with Panasonic has had some good plasmas. Like I've seen some pretty solid TVs last many years, but again, that's their decision. I guess they have to get into the market if they want. You know,
Griffin XZ, thank you for this super chat, and this is a great question. We've addressed this so often. Size is the big decider. So after seeing all the reviews between A90J and G1, he decided to switch his order from the 65-inch A90J to the larger 77-inch G1 for an extra $500. Do you think I will have FOMO for the A90J with IMAX enhanced, encore streaming, blah, 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 and sound? So I think the A90J, yeah, the Bravia core is kind of cool. But ultimately, though, if you're using a Blu-ray player, that's still going to be better than Bravia Core, in my opinion. So that is the great neutralizer. I go for size. I think going from 65 to 77 will be more FOMO to stick with the A90J and have your neighbor have the 77-inch, and you're going to come by and go, wow, that's a great large-looking TV, and you're like, I wish I got a larger TV. So I think it's the other way around. Invite all your friends with a smaller A90J over to your place, and they're going to want the larger TVs. So I think you did the right thing. What's your thoughts, Brandon?
I agree. I mean, I think that it could be debatable which one's better, but I think the 12-inch benefit and size is no question better. And I'll say I have A90J and that core, you know, the core streaming service. It's kind of I mean, I have, you know, Vudu, and I have like, it's not even as good as HBO Max, to be honest, because you can't, when you pause on core, you can't see where you are. So when you fast forward, you have no idea where you're fast forwarding to. So it's like, it's kind of like it's a pretty junky start for like a streaming service. It doesn't look nearly as good as like Disney Plus or Netflix or anything. So you're not really missing anything. And they don't have much free content. You have to basically pay for everything.
See, and that's the ultimate insult. Here it is showing off its high bit rate video, and you're telling me that, oh, you know what, Disney Plus and the rest look better. So yeah,
it's not, maybe for the most part, everything that you stream can maintain that. It's good enough, and you don't notice it unless you're like right up on it. But I'm pretty happy with all the different streaming services. I don't see any benefit to the core, to be honest.
The gamer Adam, so obviously he loves the game. Thank you for super chat. X95J 75-inch versus LG C10 65-inch bright room gaming, and thoughts of VRR coming in 2021, even before the Sony 2020. So we have a couple of things to unpack here. I noticed a difference in size 75 versus 65. You're in a bright room. The X95J will be way brighter than the 65-inch C10. Now, the thing with the VRR, so I think this is going to be mixed responses from different gamers. If you're really serious about gaming and you need that VRR, you can't consider the Sony because it doesn't even take its VRR seriously. But if you're console gaming on a PS5, I'd go with the X95J 75 just because it's a bigger TV in a bright room. I think that will leave more of an impression because console gaming, Switch, PS5, Series X, I think it's about having fun more so than the specs like VRR. I played Miles Morales on my PS5 on just the H9G, and I was like, man, this looks phenomenal. I didn't even notice that the H9G didn't have VRR. So my choice for a bright room, X95J 75-inch. What are your thoughts?
I'm on board with that. I would say I think the X950H, and I'm hoping that the X95J both are similar, or, the X95J is a little better. I'm hoping that maybe with that XR processor, it can boost the highlights a little more and give you a little bit more punch even would be kind of cool. But yeah, 10-inch size difference in a bright room. Sometimes people think that the C10 can be a little bit underwhelming in a bright room. So obviously I don't care about 4K 120. I'd take that all day long. I would take the X95J too.
And for those who just joined us, the theme that we have on almost all of our live stream is, if the picture quality is minimal, go with a larger size for the same price. It's just that difference in size makes up for the qualitative differences that people may argue over, like 10 nits or 20 nits. I don't think it's worth it. Thank you, Ted Tech Med Rainer Richter, our regular. The kind of improvements I'd want and somehow expect is better color accuracy, especially in QLEDs, without making compromises about brightness, clearness, and contrast. What do I think? Okay, so this is the theme for me this week. So the QLED I would be talking about is this year's best QLED, the QN90A. Now, I haven't seen the Hisense for 2021. It may be as good. We'll see. But for now, the QN90A is definitely the best. And my ears to the ground, I'm hearing that the QN900A may actually not necessarily outperform it if you're not looking at resolution. So the Q90A is solid. Now let's talk about the compromises. I think its color accuracy is great this year when I put it against the Sony A9G, with the exception of teal. I'm still trying to figure out what's with that. I'm talking to Robert and the calibrator, and maybe it's my TV, but they're looking into it as well. But with the exception of the teal that I'm seeing, its color accuracy is so close to the Sony. But then that leaves the brightness and the contrast. Contrast, you can never come to OLED, because by the time you spend the money to get a QLED to OLED, you might as well buy an OLED because it's very expensive to add that much more dimming zones. And the brightness, well, when we started off, you saw how if I made it too bright, I lose color volume. So yeah, there's room for QLED to get better, but this is the same problem I had with the 2019 Q90R. So here we are 3 years later, right? If you watch my early reviews of the Q90R, you even notice one of my reviews like, hey, I lost color volume. Well, in 2020, hey, I got the color volume back, but now it's dim. In 2021, oh, the brightness is up, but I'm back down to I've lost color or color detail, right? So it's flip-flopping since 2019. I really think we're at a ceiling. That's why we're talking about maybe we're at peak QLED. Have you been seeing any real improvements, Brandon?
No, I mean, but I don't get so far into the color yet. I'm still more of a rookie than you on that kind of stuff. So I'm working on it. But I just, again, using the eye tests, I don't see a lot of improvement. If you had me out of a dark room, if you had me in a bright room, I probably would have a hard time noticing the difference between the Q90R, the Q90T, and the QN90A. Like, as far as their, overall just kind of like mixed use case, like I probably wouldn't see much different. It comes down to me being happy with those LED TVs than with the blooming and the dirty screen and kind of like the negatives you're talking about, where because they're trying to push these TVs out so fast, it seems like they're actually kind of putting those, downsides on the customer, which is making people more angry at Samsung than anything else,
Mm-hmm. And Jake, 75-inch 2020 TCL versus 77-inch C1. We can't even compare the two. TCL is a QLED. The other one's an OLED. it's not even about the size. It's either, if you have an OLED, you can't go TCL unless TCL releases an OLED. If you've never seen an OLED, then go with the larger size. In this case, both the OLED is the larger size and it's an OLED. So I would say the C1. J-Man, thank you for the super chat. Hey guys, need help here. I currently have a 65-inch H9G and a TCL R625. So that's the 2019 6 Series. I would like to buy my first OLED. 65 A90J or 77-inch G1. 77-inch G1. Me. What are your thoughts, Brandon?
Yeah, again, I think it's you're talking about two TVs that may be 5 or 10% different, at best. People looking at the G1 are scaring me a little bit. I'm wondering about like the peak highlights, if they're going to have any benefit. Where I do see a touch of a benefit in the A90J, I get a little wow factor with it. I like the A90J. Just some of the things that I'm seeing, even in the comments, people are talking about other videos that have shown the gradation being better on the old Sony 8H versus the A90J, which is like a little disappointing to see that performed better, the 8H. But the size, man, size is everything. I was telling you, 55 to 65, huge difference in size. So therefore, you're going to get more light in your room. You're going to be more surrounded by a better picture. 77 is 12 inches bigger. That's almost 35% larger. It's huge. It's not even close in size. So I'd have to get the larger TV.
And that goes to a wonderful point. You love your A90J, right? Best TV you've had. And here you're saying, well, you still go with a larger size because the difference in picture quality, they're both OLED, but you're like, that's 77-inch. It's going to make a difference. And I'm with you there. I think this is going to be a constant theme throughout the year. The price between the 65-inch A90J and the 77-inch G1 will be very close. And when you're spending that much money anyway, it's a couple of hundred swing either way. We're always going to move to the 77-inch unless there's something about the A90J that, I don't know, even at 65 inches, you're losing 12 inches. I can't justify that.
I mean, honestly, I would even take the C1 and I would probably almost take the C10 at 77 inches. I made a point on my video that for the $8,000 of an 83-inch A90J, you can buy 2 of these other 77-inch TVs. So it's pretty difficult. You could put 2 big screens up in 2 different rooms for the price of, going with 10% more brightness.
Scott, thank you for the super chat. Not TV related, but Sonos soundbar or the Samsung, I assume the Q Symphony soundbar, to go with the LG OLED 55-inch. So it comes down to for me, whichever soundbar comes with multiple satellite speakers, that will give you the most immersion. And then the second question, and this one I can't really answer, is I don't know how well eARC works with the LG OLED and the Sonos or the Samsung. It appears to be a moving target, this eARC compatibility. So what are your thoughts on this? I'd go with the one that gives you the most satellites for the same price.
Yeah. So I can tell you, I have a little more experience hands-on with this stuff. So the Samsung is less expensive, so you can get almost the same quality. One of my friends, Jonah Mathis, does a lot of soundbar reviews. If you don't mind, I'll tell people to check his site out. It's just Jonah Mathis. He's got some good soundbar comparisons. He does all of them, and he and I talked about it. And he said the Sonos is slightly better than all the Samsungs that have come out, but the Sonos or the Samsung, you get the soundbar, you get the sub, you get the satellites, all inclusive for like $1,000 or $1,500. Where the Sonos, the Arc, you got to buy all that stuff, and then it's like over $1,800. Now, I do like the Sonos a little better, and as far as with an LG OLED, they both work fine. The eARC works great, but let me tell you something that probably no one else is going to know. The Sonos will not let you return the sound back to the TV. It continues to take it back. So if you try to like disengage the soundbar, like to headphones, it turns your headphones back off and it pulls your eARC back again. So the Sonos is like overwhelming. So if you're good, but if you, for example, have it in your bedroom and then you want to like put headphones on at night, it can't work with the LG unless you turn the eARC off. You have to turn it off. So it's pretty crazy.
Man.
I have a Sonos though, so I like the Sonos Arc, and I would probably, I think that they're about even because the Samsung is less, maybe slightly not quite as good, but it's a lot less expensive. So they're about the same. I'd say 50-50.
Now, the Sonos, I know the subwoofer is an extra charge, and I think the
Correct.
Samsung, if you get the package, it comes with a sub.
Yes.
Does that make a difference? Would you take the Sonos without the subwoofer, or a similar price Samsung with a subwoofer? Does that make a difference?
I gotta have the subwoofer. For me, I have to have the subwoofer. I think the
Yeah.
Sonos has decent sound quality for a small room, but if you have that and if you're trying to use the Arc by itself for a home theater, it's not sufficient because it doesn't have the power. It can't push. So I gotta have a sub to give it a little rattle. That lower bass is kind of everything for me if I'm going to use anything over the TV speakers. So yeah, but $1,800, that's the subwoofer for that Sonos Arc is solid. It's very good for the price too. It's expensive, but it's good.
Agreed. And I'd go with the cheaper one that comes with a sub, because I think the sub really does fill in the spaces that the sound quality TV doesn't. That's the difference, right? You're getting a soundbar to get more low end. TV does not do that well. They're just focused on dialogue. Okay, thank you, Michael McGehee, for your super chat. Plenty of room for improvement with picture quality. Sample and hold, motion, and no 12-bit yet. Oh, okay. So you bring up some good points. Let's unpack. Sample and hold. So LED and OLED will always be sample and hold, and micro LED as well. So I think on the motion side, processing, there is room for improvement there. How close it could get to a CRT or a plasma, I don't know. We might be getting near that ceiling. 12-bit is another place. Now, I don't know if you can see 12-bit without getting brighter. So there's an argument there as well as, do you need 4,000 nits to really get the advantage of 12-bit without banding? Because that additional color resolution, you may not be able to see it, and the content needs to get there as well. So, but that's a good point. You're correct. Both of those, but then I think we're still circling the deck chairs for the last 3 years. Definitely, we're not any closer to 12-bit, other than the luminance panel in the back, where they're arguing that's 12-bit now. I think that's kind of cheating, but you know what? Technically, it is. And the sample and hold, we're still stuck with that. I don't know if processing can solve that. And you're right with the 8K. I don't think 8K is an improvement. It's definitely a distraction. So thank you for that. Steven Bentz, thank you. For streaming, would we recommend using native apps or buying the Roku Ultra Apple TV? I found the native apps are inconsistent from TV to TV, even model to model within the same brand. I like the external. I know what I'm getting from an Apple TV or a Roku Ultra. I plug it in and it's really consistent quality. And I hate victimizing Vizio. Their smart cast is definitely all over the place when it comes to their Netflix streaming quality. And sometimes Dolby Vision is off in the native app as well. So I would recommend, and it's cheap now. The Roku Ultra is under $100. I think it's worth it. What are your opinions on that?
Yeah, I like what you said about the inconsistencies. That's one thing to think about. I do like, a lot of times I go into houses and they want the same platform across all their TVs. So I'll take like 6 different Rokus with me, and I have the same, then they have the same remote and the same OS on every TV. And it's like easy for customers. I think the Apple TV is a good product. I am having a bit of issue with it where I'm having some like, when I'm in Netflix and stuff, I'll have like some it's juddering on its own. I believe it's the Apple TV because it did it with the 8H and it's still doing it with the A90J. So I think that Apple TV is a problem. But overall, I agree with you. If you can get a TV like with the new Google TV where it has all of your like logged in Google apps across the platform and you're happy with the new Google TV platform, then awesome, So maybe that is a reason to get a Sony, because I don't think that the WebOS 6.0 of LG is very good at all. So I actually think it's a downgrade.
You're not the only one complaining about that. And just real quick about the Apple TV, make sure that you set the frame rate. Don't let the Apple TV convert to 24. Let your TV do it. It'll do a better job. So that's actually a common complaint with the Apple TV is.
That's probably good advice for me, man. I'll have to take you on that.
Yeah. Look at the settings and make sure you're not letting the Apple do the anti-judder stuff. G-Tech, thank you. What do we think of the X90J for $1,700? It's $1,600 now, right? I think it dropped a bit more. I still think it's overpriced for what you're getting. It essentially is, it's definitely an improved X900H. It's a little bit brighter. It has a little bit better of everything over the X900H. But the X900H will be $1,000 in the coming months come Prime Day. Is it $700 more than the X900H. And considering, are you ready? The Q90T, I gotta pop this up for you guys. The Q90T is $1,750. What would you choose? Brandon, X90J for $1,700 or the 2020 Q90T for $1,750?
That's not even close. I mean, that's, and I did a video where I compared the mid-tier TVs, and I had the Samsung Q90T in there as like a fill-in for the A8H or the A9G, because I'm sorry, the H9, the Hisense.
H9G, yes.
Yeah, sorry, lost for a second. And when I was doing it, I was like, oh man, I gotta like really dim this down because the Q90T blew it out of the water, you know. So, but people did like the picture quality of the X900H. There's no way I could buy that. No, I would even look back at the X900H and just get that. It's such a steal right now, and it's basically the same TV, you know.
Essentially, yes. I think they improved one or two things, but I don't know. It's Sony's fault partly that they're pricing it so high, because even last year's premium X950H, if you're in a bright room, I know the 950H dark room has a few issues, but in a bright room, it'll blow away the 90J, even this year's 90J. So something to think about. Next up is very simple 83. Just bought my 65-inch C10. Would like to find good picture quality settings. I tried looking on AVS forums for denies, but unable to find his settings. Okay. Definitely the good news for you is the C10, their settings are everywhere. I do know that his settings are on AVS forums. If you ask, someone nice on there will give you the link to his settings. But good picture quality settings, definitely it varies from person to person. Check again, because I know it's there. And well, do you have any opinions for settings, Brandon?
You know, I think you can find basic stuff on just ratings too. Like, you know, ratings has their settings, but you know, sometimes I even change a little bit from there, and then then it comes down to the motion. Some of that stuff is personal. So I just say, like, find a source, maybe just ratings, go there, lock it in as they do, and then just from there tinker a little bit and see what you like, you know, because you're not calibrating the color, you're just looking at the different settings that you can mess around with. So, you know, no one's perfect. No one has perfect settings. Some of people are more informed than others, but in the end, you just want to like the TV.
Yep. Shuva Raman, thank you. Magenta tint on left quarter of C10. Call LG warranty. So that's a dirty screen. And if it's only on the left corner, absolutely call LG warranty while it's still in warranty. Take pictures, send it out, and come back. Let us know what happens, because they may just say, oh, you know what? That looks good to us. So yeah. Have you had any of this magenta tinting, Brandon?
No magenta tinting. I checked a couple weeks ago we did a video, and I checked out the uniformity on the different TVs, and I noticed a little bit of uniformity issues in the C10. But the thing is that I never see it in real content. On the having a little bit of, I know the people are talking about the grid-like pattern on some of the new OLEDs, or just a little bit of just a little bit of banding on an OLED is different than like the solid, dirty screen effect you get on the LEDs, where it's like, it's so noticeable and you can't get away. So I haven't had any significant problems besides that A90J that I did take back, and I got a new one that was clean,
This is great that we have all these TVs to compare notes, because it allows us to, kind of like double check ourselves, and which leads us to Cyborg GT100. Thank you for the super chat. Hey, B, once you receive all 4 TVs and done your picture review, can you review for the gamers different genres of gaming? Most reviewers just do the FPS, right? The first-person shooter, racing games, rather than your MRPG, the adventure stuff, MFPS, racing, and platforms. What are your plans for gaming reviews, Brandon?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to have all 4 of those TVs in there. So I will have my camera just recording nonstop content while I have all 4 of those TVs sitting there. So yeah, I have, our family plays the PS5. We play the game Sackboy on there, and we get all 4 of us running around, and it's just a little fun kid game, but the graphics on that are amazing, just beautiful color. So I'll have plenty of content to look at. My son plays a lot of different games as well. So I'll mess around with it, and I'll be excited to have that, not just to have it for one review or two, but to have those 4 TVs and then have all that content, then I can go back and comb over it for, you know, months and look and see what I think. So I'll be excited.
Sense. Yeah, I think that's the challenge, is getting enough of the genres out there, because I'll have the exact same issue. We'll all have all 4 TVs, and then we rush through the games and we move on to the next thing. But sometimes people have these specific, like, you know, I don't know, World of Warcraft. How does it look? You know, you're going into a cave and it's dark. Can you see anything? Which TV during a dungeon raid, right?
You know what the problem is with those? A couple of things when we're doing those comparisons, I don't know if people realize this, but one is it's really hard to match the TVs so that they look accurate compared to each other, because, you know, even just having one a bit brighter can then make that TV look blown out. And then it's hard to like then say, no, it wasn't blown out. And secondly, when you're trying to have 2 TVs and then you're using the settings on the game systems themselves to kind of calibrate or to make the HDR look the best, you know, raising it for one, then we'll lower it for another, the detail and the highlights. So it's really difficult for us to get these TVs to look perfect. And so, you know, I spent half my time just trying to get the TV set up, let alone trying to get footage, you know.
Absolutely. Welcome to my world, my friend. That was the challenge of my first year reviewing was, and here's the thing, and this is why I had to upgrade my camera. The reason why I upgraded my camera is exactly what you said, is to make these adjustments. For example, the Alpha one. So I don't know if you're shopping for a new camera yet, but the Sony Alpha one allows me to individually change my frame rate to avoid that weird banding on the TV, right? So I get all 4 TVs perfect, and then one TV has this banding, like, oh. Now with the variable frame shutter rate, right? The variable shutter, I'm able to eliminate that banding, but it's like I have to upgrade to an 8K top of the line hybrid shooter just to get there. But that's what we do, you know. We constantly have to push
that
the
camera's
edge of technology.
amazing, dude. That camera looks amazing too, though.
It's a badass.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Amphion, thank you for the super chat. 65C10 will take me all the way to micro LED. Yes, it will. As a matter of fact, the C9 would have done that. The C8, the A9G. Micro LED is probably the biggest upgrade for OLED owners. So congratulations to all who have an OLED. Edgar CID, thank you for the super chat. Have you tested the 50-inch Samsung Q90A? And could you compare it to the 48-inch LG C1? I have not, and I don't plan to, mostly because, one, it's not being released in the US until end of April, early May, or something like that. And I only have room for so many TVs. So when I choose one model size, that's it. But can I compare it to the OLED? Well, I can tell you right now, just like the QN90A 65-inch versus an LG OLED at the same size, your darkroom performance is where it's going to fall short, but it should be brighter than the LG. But then the LG C1 is a better gaming TV. So hopefully that helps. What are your thoughts on comparing the two?
I think, you know, I think I'm pretty on the same page there with you. I do think I noticed that a lot of gamers do like the Samsungs. They do like the color. They like the brightness. So, you know, that I'm not a big gamer, so I can't contradict those people that like that, just because, you know, burn-in free, you know have to think about that kind of thing if they're seeing a lot of static images and all that. But I think I'm going to give the QN90A another shot. I ended up taking that one back just because I wasn't very happy with it. But I have to get another crack at that QN90A later in the year. So we'll have to see on that. But I would agree, just in general, I would go with the C1 in gaming. It's always so quick and snappy.
Agreed. And for those with gaming questions, let us know what gaming platform your question is, because the difference between a PS5 and a PC, the choice of TV opens up if it's just a PS5, but if you're a PC gamer, I will almost always say LG C series. Amanda, thank you for this. I have a bright room with 2 windows we would use for streaming and gaming. What TV you suggest? So this is exactly what I'm doing in my house. I have 2 bright windows, all areas, and I'm currently watching the Samsung Q90R. And the reason why I use the Samsung is it has great anti-glare coating, but many of you have mentioned that when you did pick up a Samsung, there was a rainbow effect that really annoyed you. So definitely think on that when you do pick up a TV. The Samsung does have one of the best anti-glares out there, but this year LG and Sony have picked up their game. So you'll have anti-glare on LG TVs, the top end, as well as the Sony like X95J and the Samsung QLED series. Get one where they specifically have an anti-glare coating. but you should also have the brightest TV you can afford to overcome those windows. And right now, the brightest TVs are the Hisense H9G and the Samsung Q90T and the QN90A. Those are super bright TVs, and they're all at different price points for you to consider. Brandon, what do you think? Bright windows, streaming and gaming.
Yeah, I like the QN90A. I like the X950H. I think the price, if it's a larger TV, it's a pretty good price point. So I like those TVs.
Yep. And so there we are. Just want to show you that again. So those are the TVs I've mentioned, and they do a great job because they're so bright. Next up, hey, TechMed Rainer Richter, thank you for the super chat. Had a Q95R 55-inch and then the Q900T 65-inch. Now the Q900A, congratulations, you got the 8K flagship 65-inch, which blew me away in comparison due to color accuracy, black levels, and HDR performance, especially in my bright daylight conditions. Hey, Brandon, weren't you going, or are you still planning to get the QN900A?
I was hoping to. It's just I'm getting overwhelmed with TVs right now.
Well, you're gonna get A90J, right? Where are you gonna put it?
And I didn't even tell you that I'm picking up one of those extra large TCL TVs to do a little thing on it too. So I'm going up to TCL to grab one of those. But yeah, I mean, I think that's awesome. I was hoping for this. I was hoping for that. I think the true test for this TV is how does it perform when the lights are off? You know what I mean? I think you're probably on point with that too. But I'm stoked that he's happy with it. I'm always happy when people are happy with their TVs. That's all I care about. But yeah, that looks good to me. I'm hoping for the same thing with that QN900A.
And one thing many people should understand, so I want to unpack the Q95R and Q900T have significantly less dimming zones compared to the Q900A, which is an 8K flagship for 2021 with, I believe, over 1,000 dimming zones. I mean, like my 65-inch Q900A has 800, which I thought was a huge improvement. Going to over 1,000, I could only expect more. My only concern is, does 8K hold it back? I wish they would make a 4K with over 1,000 dimming zones, but this is great. I'm glad you're enjoying it because this is definitely a jump above the 900T, which we both have TechMed, and yes, it's a little bit disappointing. Next up, Julian, thank you for the super chat. You have a 49-inch Sony X830D from 2016 in a bright room. Thinking of getting the C1 65-inch. Is the C1 as bright as his old LED, or wait for the X95J? What are your thoughts about that?
Are you talking to me? My thoughts? Sorry, I didn't know if you. I'm going to look it up real quick. No worries. I want to find out.
Hey, so while you're looking it up, I'll jump in.
Go ahead.
The X95J is significantly brighter than the C1. That's why it's out there. Sony put that out there as a bright TV. It doesn't have a lot of dimming zones. It's not intended to be enjoyed in the dark like other TVs that are not OLEDs, but the X95J will be super bright, and yes, it will be way brighter than what the X830D in 2016 is capable of. So if you're going from the 830D and you're in a bright room, go straight to the X95J. If you're going to go to the C1, you have to watch it in the dark. Otherwise, I think you're overspending, but you're not getting the full advantage of OLED, because in a bright room, you're not getting those deep blacks and better contrast as you would in a bright room compared to a dark room. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was just checking out to see where the brightness was, and SDR brightness, the C10 is brighter. HDR brightness is way brighter, so it's nearly twice as bright. So I think you're going to be happy either way, because the C1 is way brighter than his old TV, and then the X95 is even brighter. So you can either stick with Sony and be happy, although I wonder if that TV in 2016 had dimming zones. It probably wasn't.
Yeah.
And so maybe the dimming algorithm, kind of that blooming might be annoying. I'd probably just go with the C1, but well, I don't know. It's kind of a coin flip there.
Personally, I would go the C1 and find a way to cover the lights and turn off the lights, because that would be a big jump. But if you have a bright room and you have windows everywhere, you can't do that. I think the 95J would work just as well. Or get a larger 95J for the same price if prices go down. And we have here.
And I wouldn't, while you're looking at that, I wouldn't hesitate to get that X950H from last year too. That's an opportunity for a larger screen at a cheaper price too.
That's one thing many people don't realize. If you're in a bright room, a lot of the improvements are in a dark room setting. So you might as well save money and get the X950H if you're not going to be in a dark room. Hey, Mike, thank you for the super chat. Upgrading from a Samsung 1080p, debating A8H or X950H. I'd have to say with the OLED A8H. I'm assuming you're going to be in a light controlled room, A8H all day long. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have the 8H. I had an opportunity to have the X950H. I couldn't keep it just because I was watching that one in a dark room all of the time, and I had significant blooming. And I watch a lot of widescreen HDR stuff, so it was just always in the widescreen bars. I could always see that dimming, and it bothered me. So the 8H is a fantastic TV, and the price is relatively good at like $2,300.
John Bell, thank you for the super chat. What's up? Going to get a 77-inch C1 or G1. Will it drop below 2,500 by the end of the year? I think the 77-inch C1 may drop close to below 3,000. You're not going to hit 2,500 by the end of the year, and the G1 definitely not. What are your price predictions for this?
Yeah, I don't think there's no way either one of them are hitting 2,500 for a 77-inch. I mean, right now, I think that's what the price is for a 65-inch. I think even this year at the lowest, the C10 was down to like 3,200. So
yeah,
if you want to get a lower price, I think it comes down to one of those things where they just can't make the panels that inexpensive, right?
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think by this time next year, you might hit under 3,000 for a 77-inch C1, but I think that's about the extent of that discount. Matt Hawkeye, thank you. 9 feet from the screen, gaming, movies, use. 65-inch C10 now is 1,550 pounds, or the 55-inch C1 at 1,700 pounds. Well, our stance on this. I'd rather you go 65-inch C10 because the improvement on the C1, unless you have it next to each other, you're not going to enjoy the slightly improved picture quality, but then the smaller size, and you're 9 feet away. 65-inch makes a huge difference. So definitely get the 65-inch C10 for 1,550 pounds. Brandon, you think? Can you think of a reason why he should get the 55-inch?
No,
C1?
I completely agree. When I had my 4 TVs, I had 4 of the 55-inch, and I noticed a lot of I was like, oh man, I thought this was better than this, but it was because it was a 55-inch instead of the 65, and I wasn't getting the same experience because it was smaller. So you're gonna lose out on the fun because it's 10 inches smaller. There's no question about that. I would get the 65. And you're saving money too.
Yeah, that's big. Let's talk nits. Patrick Murphy, thank you for this wonderful super chat. LG OLEDs. All right, we're going to focus on LG OLEDs. He's been researching. Peak brightness on the C10 is 650 nits. On the C1, it's 750, and the G1, it's 800. It seems like the C1 is the obvious winner. Better brightness with minimum price increase compared to the C10, and similar brightness, but much cheaper to the G1. Thoughts? So I'd love to give you some context. I don't know if you knew this, Patrick, but the C9 was over 700 nits. So a lot of people were saying when they went from the C9 to the C10, they were complaining that it dropped from above 700 nits down to 650. So the C1 is just reintroducing what the C9 had already reached in terms of peak brightness. And so this is why we're saying that, hey, maybe we've reached a certain maturity. But you're absolutely right in terms of comparing the C10 to the C1. Yes, the C1 does have slightly brighter, but keep in mind the price as well. The C1 compared to the G1, I agree. I would take the C1 with $500 being cheaper, but then C10 is even $500 cheaper still if we were to buy today. Obviously, after Prime Day, the C10s will be gone. You're limited to C1. Ultimately, the C1 has always been their value leader, and the G1 has been the pretty TV, and the Evo doesn't appear to really significantly add much. I agree. I think the C1 is the obvious winner, unless the C10 is available. What do you think?
I think absolutely you're right on point. I would, if you had to pick from something right now, then you're going to pay the premium for the C1. If you can wait, the C1 is going to be in a sweet spot. I'm not the only person that made a video talking about how the C1 will be under the radar this year. I've seen a few of them since I made mine. Not that, you know, I'm sure they weren't
you know,
looking at my
I need to
reviews.
make one on that too. I need to
Yeah.
make it under. I don't even have the C1 yet, so I can't.
It's
make
under the
it.
radar. It's totally gonna. It's like it's a, you know, the C10 was just like everybody had it. It's everywhere. Everybody pulling a TV out to their car has a C10, right? The C1 is going to be that same TV. But it's kind of under the radar with everyone having brighter TVs and all this. Look, it's 50 nits higher as he's showing us on the screen. So Amazon Prime Day, you know, in the fall, yeah, it's going to be a steal.
Agreed. Big Teen Apples, thank you for the super chat. You're having difficulty deciding between a 77-inch C10 or the C1 and waiting for the TCL extra large 8K mini LED and upgrading from a 65-inch Samsung. So all these TVs will blow away your 65-inch Samsung. So first of all, the TCL XL 8K is 85 inches. If you have room for that, consider it very similar to the QN900A for $3,500. That is such a good deal. And 77-inch C10, it's significantly smaller. At this point, does size still trump quality? So let's say, for the sake of argument, the prices are plus or minus a couple $100 from each other. What are your thoughts, Brandon, between an 85-inch QLED, even though a good one, versus a 77-inch OLED?
Well, I think that this is a really tough question because it's not that I don't think that TCL will probably be better than the C1, but we're sitting here talking about size mattering, and then now we're saying, well, wait, how much does it matter when we can go a little smaller and get a OLED? So very tough. I think that to answer the question, either one is going to be better than the 65-inch Samsung. So to make it easy, I just stop there. But of course, if you want to get a 20-inch, you know, screen improvement, a lot of people, like you said, if they haven't seen an OLED, may not even notice. You may not, you know, it's always like hit or miss if people love that perfect contrast or if it's not as bright as I thought it was going to be on the OLED. So, you know, that TCL could be a great deal and a huge size improvement, but it's tough to pass up on it. I think a 77-inch OLED is a fantastic TV and a great size for most people, you know.
You know, and it just hit me. This is the test that I use. So I have to take off my reviewer hat because as reviewers, we're always looking at the technical aspect. But when I take off my reviewer hat, I'm thinking, okay, if it's an 85-inch, it's for the family theater. And I think back to the conversation I had with my daughter. I'm like, honey, she's like 12 at the time, right? 11 or 12. Honey, isn't this great? Look at the black levels I'm going on, right? And she's like, I don't get it. I want a bigger TV. I was like,
Yeah.
You know what?
They simplify it, right?
That's at the end of the day, if it's for you and your man cave, I think you can go for the specs because there's a pride of ownership. Like, oh, these HDMI ports, like a game. But if it's your home theater for your family, trust me, they will appreciate the larger 85-inch because if you start focusing on the black levels, they'll humor you, but deep inside, I wish you got a larger TV. Because there's no arguing it's larger, right? So,
and the mini LED will probably be brighter too, right? So,
yes, right. Yeah. Your family will notice it. So when I buy a TV for the family, I'm always thinking, okay, what is it they really want? It just comes down to size first, brightness second, and then that's it. Call it a day. Sunny Woo, thank you for the super chat. LG Nano 90, 86-inch, the Nano 86, 90 UPA, or the Sony X85J. I would go with the Nano 90 over the X85J, most because the 85J is Sony's bottom tier, below their 90J series. And the Nano 90 was built to be LG's flagship 4K last year. Even though I have my issues with its brightness and dimness, the 85J won't be brighter and it'll be built to a lower quality. So I'm thinking quality of life for you, get the Nano 90 because it's just built better. That's my thoughts. I have problems really going deep into this because I've panned the Nano 90 so often, but then the X85J I think is even worse. So those are my thoughts.
They might be able to get the X900H for a similar price too in the 85-inch. I think, like I said, it's $2,200. So you could look and upgrade to the Sony where you're getting HDMI 2.1 in that 85-inch X900H for probably a little bit more than the Nano, but still, it's probably comparative, close.
Any news on the new Hisense U6 5 U8 coming and pricing? Want a budget, 65-inch budget, 1300, concern on long-term quality, brighter room, should just get an X900J. Okay, so the Hisense is coming. We are going to have announcements next month. So May is going to be the month of TCL and Hisense. You're going to hear a lot of good stuff, but TCL is not releasing any new 65-inch TVs this year. It'll be the R635 again. Everything new from TCL will be larger and 8K. Hisense, on the other hand, is releasing a 65-inch TV, and I do like Hisense, but also match long-term quality, match it to the price you're paying. So TV makers are very good. The more expensive the TV, technically, the better the quality it is. That's what Consumer Reports has observed. So TCL being an exception, they're able to push quality up a little bit more than similarly priced TVs. But ultimately, if your budget's $1,300, you're getting a pretty solid mid-tier quality. That would be similar to like a QLED from Samsung. And I'd say hold on and wait for the Hisense if you're okay with buying a Hisense. I do believe it will be better than what the X90J will bring to the table. What are your thoughts on the Hisense love?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. The only issue I have with the Hisense is my color was a little green. My TV was a little green last year, So the colors aren't perfectly accurate. So you may have to consider possibly getting it calibrated if you notice that. I feel like the Sony colors are obviously more accurate, but yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the is this the X90J? Same thing, same TV here.
X90J.
Yeah. Hold off, or again, look for last year's models if you want, but otherwise I would be waiting for a Hisense too. They're pretty cool. They're good TVs.
Hey, Take Med, Q900A Love Fest. Impressed with darkroom performance, pretty close to OLED. So it sounds like the Q900A is similar performance to the Q90, because I agree. When I put it up against my A9G, honestly, in 80% of the content, indistinguishable, even in a dark room. Now, you always have the 20% where the additional contrast and black levels show its head, but even then, it's so minor that the real reason you get the OLED is now off angle. If you're off angle by more than 30 degrees, maybe that makes a difference. Oh, hey, speaking of off angle, Brandon, did you notice off angle, the blooming a lot of people complained of? Was it as bad as some people said? I didn't think mine is very bad at all. But then I don't watch beyond 40 degrees off angle from the Q90A.
Yeah, I was being pretty picky with it, I'll admit. I was getting pretty harsh on the angles to check it. I noticed a little bit of blooming only when it was like a really, like pretty much a black screen, and then like the Samsung logo was going around. But it wasn't like the Q90T where when that logo hit the middle of the screen, like the left side of the whole TV lit up, and that is even better than some of the Sony and other TVs. So no, I think it's better. I just wish the highlights were a little brighter. So obviously we're being a lot more picky than buyers are. So I think most people would probably be very happy with the darkroom performance of that TV and the Q90A and the Q900A.
I believe so. So because we are so picky, I have to take a step back. I would even say 99% of the viewers, if they see the Q90A in a dark room, they'd be like, wow, you have an OLED? It's that good. But for those who have an OLED, that's a whole different group. If you've never had an OLED, the Q90A might as well be an OLED as far as you're concerned. It's really impressive. I really appreciate it. The only thing is it is $2,600. So that's OLED pricing. So really, you're very similar there. Michael McGehee, thank you for your super chat. I have the LG C7. Is the C10 or C1 picture quality noticeable enough to warrant an upgrade? So Michael, consider this. The real improvement is not the black levels or what people traditionally think as the upgrade. I think the biggest two reasons to upgrade, if this is an issue for you, is motion. The C7 motion was just average. The C1 motion, I'm hearing it's significantly improved, and like the Q90A, it is a match for the Sony motions now. So the C10 and the C1 motion is significantly improved over the C7. So if you had an issue with judder, stutter, or you don't like the soap opera effect, the C10 and C1 better. Or if you're okay with black frame insertion, meaning the slightly dimmer picture, the C1 is excellent, BFI. So motion improvement, yes. upscaling of broadcast content, the C1 is an improvement. That, again, only if you notice the C7 had issues with upscaling. But if you love your C7, and this is what I tell people, if you love what you have, don't upgrade, because you don't even know why you're upgrading. Know why you're upgrading. If you don't like the stutter on the C7, yes, the C1 will be a noticeable improvement. What are your thoughts going from C7 to C1, Brandon?
I just think that there maybe HDMI 2.1 on the the newer ones, but besides that, it's almost identical, because the C6 is the curve, right? Is the curved. So the C7 is the first gen where it was flat, and so it literally looks the same still. It's almost exactly the same. So picture quality, I think it's old enough that if you need a new TV, go for it. And when I see warrant and upgrade in there, I would say get the C10 and get a warranty. And then you'd have the, C10 and a warranty is the same price as the C1. So there you go.
Hey, Zim, thank you for that super chat. When are we going to get the Q900A to test? Well, this year I'm skipping out on the Q900A because I plan to get the TCL OD0. I'm going to call that a proxy of the Q900A. So it could be close enough. You're still planning to get the Q900A, Brandon?
I'm trying. I'm still trying to see if I have time and everything. It just depends on how things go. But yeah, we'll have to see. I'm going to have the
Someone will get it.
I'm going to have the QN800. I'm going to have that at a client's house. So I'll have the 800 and I'll be checking that out soon.
Patrick, thank you. What's the better warranty, Best Buy or Costco? I'm not worried about burn-in. So that aside, seems like Costco gives the same benefit without the extra $800. Any other difference other than burn-in? Agreed. This is why people join Costco, is to buy the TVs, to buy electronics, and just have an easy time returning or exchanging if you have a problem. I would always go Costco first, then Best Buy. Now, in the past, Best Buy had some customer service. Well, they're abandoned that completely now. So, yeah, Costco, go for the cheaper one. Have you ever chosen a Best Buy over Costco, Brandon?
I have had Best Buy warranties. I've not had Costco warranties. I know that Costco takes good care of people. I've had no problems. I've had nothing but success with Best Buy too. So I don't know. It just depends on what people. A lot of times it comes down to customer service. Comes down to what you've had as experiences in the past. So I like that the burn-in warranty is covered under the Best Buy. If you're getting a burn-in, most people's complaint is that maybe that'll happen. So if that's the peace of mind they need, then there you go. But I think either one of them are fine.
Actually, I forgot there's one thing about the Best Buy warranty that justifies the extra, whatever, 800 or more. If you get a size larger than 65-inch, they will come to your house and take care of everything for you. Costco, I don't believe was it Square Trade or whatever Costco is using? I think you're still responsible for moving that TV around. I don't know if they will come to your house to remove the TV or do whatever, but Best Buy or Geek Squad was very adamant that if it's over 65 inches, leave the TV hanging on wherever you're hanging. They will take care of everything. And that would be the reason why I'd go with the Best Buy, because they will take it off the wall, get rid of it, replace it, fix it. You don't have to worry about it. And I haven't heard any stories about Costco on the larger sizes. So it's hard for me to say for sure whether or not they'll treat you as well for the larger sizes. So maybe that's the difference. On the smaller sizes, go with the Costco if burn-in is not an issue. On the larger sizes, you might want to go with Best Buy if they don't give you the white glove treatment, right?
Yeah, and sometimes the Costco has their warranties that are longer if you have their credit card too. So they have some cool extras. Yeah, like they said.
That's true.
Yeah,
Robert,
but I believe you're right about that whole in-home thing.
Robert, thank you. Sony Z8H, should you upgrade to the Z9J? Well, this is one of those annual upgrade things. Let's wait and see how much better the Z9J is. My fear is that it's not that much better. I'd hold on to the Z8H and wait until 2022 to see what Sony does with their 8K TV, because last year has been there's a lot of obstacles to improving technology just due to the various constraints to engineering and research for we all know why. So I'd say, since you have such a premium TV, don't get the Z9J, skip it, and wait until next year and see what comes with the 2022 8K premium TVs from Sony. What do you think? Should he upgrade, Brandon?
I don't know much about those, so I'd have to leave it. I would take your word for it. You know, again, year over year, tough to upgrade to something similar without. It's always typically pretty minor things.
Hey, thank you, Teal Prodigies. If you have a question, don't forget to post it. You can include your question on the super chat. I'll try to keep an eye out for you. TechMed Rainer.
Yeah, he's taking off. He said he's got to take off.
Oh, no. Well, watch this show. Leave your question that we'll answer, and you can always watch it later. Thank you. Have to leave for sleeping. See you later, Tech. There you go.
This is the guy I was talking about. Sorry,
that was the guy. Okay. Hey, Corey. Speaking of theater TVs, when is the 100-inch 92J available? When is that available? You know? My guess is summer.
That is a big TV, man. 100-inch TV.
That is a big TV.
I wonder if someone will buy that so I can hang it around here. That'd be interesting.
I'll ask Robert exact dates for you, but I'll tell you this, Corey, the 100-inch is such limited stock. It may be limited to certain retailers only. I suggest you do not order it on Amazon, because I don't know if they can take care of a TV that size, ship it, not damage it. You might want to consider a local retailer, or maybe Best Buy if they're hopefully going to take care of it a bit better. But availability, I believe it's going to be sometime this summer. I don't have an exact date right now. Do you, Brian?
I have no idea. No, I have no idea.
But it is $20,000, so I'm sure we can wait.
That is expensive.
Oh, here we go. Here's the answer. Costco is in home. Well, there you go. Thank you, Matthew. Well, there you go. So maybe there is no reason.
Netflix calibrated.
Calibrated mode. So on the Sony, it's very dark. I don't use it. I don't like it. But that was on my Sony A9G. I don't know if they fixed it recently. Did you try Netflix calibrated on your A90J? I
don't like it either. I don't use it. No, I just, I don't know. I'm just, once I kind of dial in the way I like to watch content, I'm pretty nitpicky about it. And I just use the Apple TV 4K and I'm over it. So, you know, I really only use sometimes I'll use Disney Plus or something on the actual interface itself. But no, I just, the Apple TV, it already looks fantastic. I just leave it the way it is. I watch it in custom mode.
Hey, TL Prodigies, this is a great comment. Game Hub Q90A, is it accurate? He's playing Battlefield 3 on Series X, and it says it's running at 120 FPS, but he didn't think it was possible for that game. So you have two issues. One is if your game is outputting what it could be 120, but it's not giving you real time, then it's probably inaccurate. So if you don't see your frame rate going up and down, then it's probably not an accurate reading. And it may be just saying that, oh, our metadata says that this signal is capable of 120. Whether you're getting that frame rate or not, it's really hard to say. This is where I think LG is doing pretty good on their readouts. It feels like it's variable because to me on the C10, it feels like it's changing. So think, okay, you know what? I know for sure that it's not fixed at 120 frame rates. There is no way it's fixed at 120 frame rates. It's got to be going up and down. And if it says 120 without going up and down, I have my doubts that's accurate. Have you tried the readout on the Q90A, Brandon?
Yeah,
I haven't tested it yet. So,
well, when we were playing Dirt 5 and 4K 120, it was going up. It normally said 119 when it was peaking out. So it was normally kind of stuck at 119, and then it would go down and be 50, 60, 70, 90, and then it'd be up to 119. You know, so it probably needs to be moving for it to be accurate. I'm not much of a gamer, but I did see that game is supposed to be 4K at 120. I thought, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yep.
Could be wrong.
And that's exactly, if it's going up and down, more likely that's accurate. But if it's stuck at 120, yeah, that's not possible.
Oh yeah, he's saying it was 118 to 119. Yeah, normally it would go down. I mean, if you kind of log in or pause the game or you go out of a menu, normally it kind of moves down and you'll see it drop.
Stoker, thank you for your super chat. You both have helped me so much when I wanted to purchase a TV 4 or 5 months ago. You got the 65-inch OLED A8H during a sale, $1,800.
Yeah, that was that
extended
deal.
warranty. Okay, you know what? I missed that deal. I wish I could have found it and shared it with everyone. That is an excellent price with an extended warranty.
Yeah, I posted that one. I posted that one when it came out. It happened a couple times. It happened like a few weeks before Black Friday, and then it happened like right after Black Friday, where it went down. And I think the 55-inch was like $1,300 or $1,200 as well. That was a pretty good steal.
And this is the lesson for everyone to learn is this. There are certain times of the year when this deal, it's out there for everyone to enjoy, right? If you guys wait, this year it'll be the same for the A90J, the C1. You're going to get this exact same deal, if not maybe even a little cheaper because they're a little cheaper to make this year. But yeah, this is out there. It doesn't have to be a 2020 model. By the end of 2021, we're going to see this again. So I'm pretty stoked for you guys too. Here we go. Thank you. Is the Q90A Game Hub accurate FPS wise? I don't know. I'm going to have to test it and see. But so here's the problem I have with whether or not it's accurate. How do I know if it's accurate or not? What if it's off by 30 frames per second? I have no way to double check it because I don't have the necessary frame rate checking equipment to double check it. We honestly have to trust it. I mean, think of it this way. What if the Samsung gave us BS readouts, right? What if it is nothing related to what it is? At over a certain frame rate, you have no idea, right? Because your eyes could only see so many differences. So if it's off by 30 FPS, let's say you're bouncing from 80 to 110, and it's completely wrong because it's something else between 80 and 110. I don't think you could really notice the difference. Now, if it's off by 60 frame rates, right, you should be at 120, but it's saying 60. Okay, but I think it's hard to say, and this applies to all the TVs, by the way. We trust that it's accurate, but until someone double checks it with the right equipment, I honestly don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think this is the same guy that was asking the question before about, it was stuck at 120. So I think we kind of answered as much as we can. Who knows? I mean, like we said, it should be moving back up and down to give you kind of a good idea. You'd think that Samsung would be, trying to be accurate with that information. It's not their first year doing 4K at 120. So hopefully they have proper measurements to get that information.
Yep. And I saw a great comment by Corey. So Corey asked, "Hey, when's the 100-inch coming out?" I said, "Oh yeah, it's 20 grand." It's like, "Oh my god!" And so everyone, if you're waiting for the 100-inch, it's 20,000. No, it's MSRP. Okay, it'll probably come down to 18,000, right? But seriously, 100-inch, and we were talking about this on your live stream, right? We were talking about big TVs, and Chana was saying, "All right, 100 inches coming out. Who's got 20 grand in their pocket?" You're competing with some of the best projector screen combinations out there. Absolutely. And we're trying to think of what's the use case to spend close to 20 grand. And my conclusion is if you're a Kardashian, you can show off your $20,000 TV. But I cannot think of a qualitative way of saying, this is a great decision. I couldn't think of a better TV to get or a better projector or cinema experience to get at 20 grand. I haven't thought of a use case yet for that.
No, and you got 85-inch TV is massive, so you have a bunch of options that are far less expensive. And like we keep going over this stuff, but 85-inch TVs, there's a bunch of them, and TCL is coming out with the new XL line, so there's so many good options there, for way less.
And so, Silent Agents 0069. I explained it in my video when the $20,000 100-inch came out. I believe there are two reasons why the price is so high. First, at 100 inches, you're going to have a lot of uniformity DSE issues. They know that. They're going to have to discard quite a number of 100-inch TVs as unacceptable. And, well, if they throw it away, it raises the price of all the TVs that are left. So yield goes to this. When you have a lower yield, your TV goes up. And at 20,000, what does that tell you about the yield? The yield is horrible on the 100-inch. If every 100-inch they made was perfect, it would probably be cheaper. And also, it's more expensive to handle and manage manufacturing something so large. And the mother glass is unique. This is a one-off, right? So they're trying to recoup what money they would have made on multiple smaller TVs on this one TV, and all the margins that they would have made on the multiple smaller ones will now go to this one TV with lower yields. So I think that part way goes to this, and even then their yield are so low, only the USA is getting this 20-inch or this $20,000 TV. They would love to sell a $20,000 TV globally, but they're only sending it to the US. So that just indicates how low these yields are.
And how many Kardashian-like people want that?
Yeah, get in line, Kardashians, right? Hey, Benny. I thought my Q90J had only one HDMI 2.1 port, but I checked, and all 4 ports work on his 85-inch. Have you checked your TVs? You know what, Benny? I have not checked if it was a 2.1. I'm assuming 2.1 is defined by over 18 gigabits per second, so at least 40 gigabits per second. So if all 4 ports can carry 40 gigabits per second, then technically, yeah, it's arguable that it's a 2.1 port. And I don't know. I've never checked. I just took it for granted it wasn't. Did you ever? Okay, so how do you check? You
Well,
either have.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead. How do you check? Because I was going to say,
No worries. I just use the
check?
Xbox Series X, and there's an opportunity in there to check it where you can go in and check your resolution and all your settings. But I would be wondering if it's dropping down to 1080p at 120 on the other ones and they're not noticing. I can't say that they're wrong. I don't know. But from what I had gathered, I was pretty sure like most people were saying that only the one, it has the game mode port and it doesn't say 4K at 120 on it. I can't remember now. I'd have to look back, but I'm not going to doubt them, but I didn't think that was the case.
Right. And the ultimate test, what you're saying, if you plug it into the Series X and it says 4K 120 capable, there you have it. It's got 2.1. Hey, thanks, Azim. Well, we love you guys in Norway as well.
Yeah, I love to get the support from overseas. I try to help everybody as best we can, wherever they are, because it's weird how many different TVs there are in different areas, and some of the questions they shoot at you, where the Sony X900H is $4,000 or something. It's like, what? All these different prices. It's nuts.
Yeah, I think Americans, and even compared to Canada, the USA gets better cost advantage across the border from Canada. We don't realize how fortunate we are. But then on the flip side, there are some European products that are so much cheaper, like Genelec stereos or Genelec speakers in Europe are way cheaper than in the USA. It's just sometimes it's regional. And for Sony to sell it cheaper here, we're very fortunate.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny too. The G1 is an example of that. The LG G1, when that came overseas, probably from Korea or wherever it was down in South San Diego on a boat that came in. Now it's in Ontario, up in Ontario, because they got to take it up there in a truck. And then they're going to ship it in a smaller container back down to San Diego again. So just think of the logistics. They're going right past my house twice with my TV because of the cost it takes to ship those, so there's all kinds of logistics factors.
Okay, Benny, he used his Xbox to check. You know what? Now I'm curious. So right after this show, between today and tomorrow, I'll do that. I'll run it through Xbox Series X and see what it says on all 4 ports, and I'll post it in the community page. I'll let you guys know.
Because if he does set his if he sets his frame rate to 120 and then it changes, it could just be that it's going from 1080 back up to 4K on the one port down to 1080 120 on the other. But sorry to interrupt you there.
No, that's right. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how everyone who's tested it says no, but then, or maybe, Benny, you got yourself a mutant TV. Just keep it to yourself. Otherwise, Samsung's going to show up and take it away. Sometimes you get lucky because they could do 4 ports. All right, we are going to wrap it up. It's been 90 minutes taking last call for questions. And my final comment before we head off is that you guys are pretty fortunate shopping for TVs this year, because I think the 2020 TVs are definitely worth comparing to the 2021 TVs. You're not losing anything. Whereas maybe going from 2018 to 2019 or 2019 to 2020, there were some pretty significant changes, right? But 2020 to 2021, I think we're there. I think you could safely choose a 2020 TV without any FOMO, or get a larger 2020 TV definitely without any FOMO. What do you think about that, Brandon?
Yeah, I agree in general. I think it's a great opportunity to get a bunch of TVs. That's kind of what my video was about today, just trying to pick the right TV. And so, a lot of what I said was that X900H, the X950H, the LG C10 is probably the best deal. You can get, you can get the LG C10, 77-inch, with a 5-year warranty for under $4,000. And you know what? The A9G, when it came in from Sony, was $7,000 when it came out. So it's like half the price for a 77-inch TV. And then you have 5 years of warranted and everything else. No worries. So some of those TVs are fantastic. And there really is not a lot of benefit to getting the newer TVs so far.
Agreed. All right. Good question. What TV do I have in my living room currently? It's the Q90R in my bright living room, and I love it. Good question here. LG C10 or 75-inch Sony X900H? We talked about this a little bit on your live stream, I think. If I've never had an OLED before and I just had like a 55-inch TV, I'm ready to upgrade, I take the 75-inch because going from my 55-inch 10-year-old Sony to an X900H, I'd be like, wow, it's amazing. But if I had an OLED before, I couldn't go back. I'd probably stick with a 65-inch LG C10 because once you've seen what OLED could do, it's really difficult to go back. So if you've never had an OLED, Luke, go with a 75-inch. You'll love the extra size.
Yeah, and I have the 65-inch LG C10 as my main TV in my living room. And so it would take a little bit more than the X900H for me to upgrade 75-inch. I couldn't probably do that. I probably wouldn't give it up for that 75 specifically. No.
Right. Once you have OLED, it's like, you know what you're missing. You see the lifted blacks. Okay, last super chat. Big T and Apples. Thank you. Follow up to the 8700 to C10 C1 77-inch or TCL XL. It will be a family TV, but also PS5 gaming, PC gaming, Xbox Series X. Room can get dark. Thoughts on the TCL XL gaming features? So this is a difficult question. We don't know yet what the XL gaming features will be. We will find out as soon as the TVs are released, but we don't know yet. So if gaming is important to you, definitely the C10 77-inch or C1, you're rock solid. And it's large. And if you already budgeted for that, I'd go with a 77-inch and you would kick it on PC, Series X, and PS5 because no other TV can do PC gaming like the LG C series. What are your thoughts?
I'm gonna have that TV. I'll have it on Thursday. I should have at least an unboxing by Thursday.
Oh, the XL?
Yeah, I'm gonna have an 85-inch XL. I'm gonna go pick it up and bring it back here. So I'll have that. I'll have an unboxing, maybe a review. We'll see how fast I can get it out. But if they can wait, check it out. Maybe subscribe to my channel.
Is that I assume that's gonna be the 8K XL, right? Because they have
I have no idea what it is.
I'm
in the dark. It's a surprise. All I know is I'm getting a box. I'm excited.
Okay, and one more question from TL Prodigy. We'll go. How can I be sure the Game Hub is accurate? You know what? You cannot. Digital Foundries has a technique to do it, but they spent a lot of time developing it. It's proprietary. It is hard to verify, and the only way to do it really is at the games with a PC. The output, you know what frame rate it is already coming out of the PC ahead of time, and then when it hits your TV, that's how you double check it. So you're going to have to use a PC with software that allows you to see what your frame rate is, and that's pretty much what you would do. You couldn't do it with a Series X unless the Series X has an indicator native to the Series X, but if you rely on the TV alone, yeah, it's pretty tough. Okay, we're done. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brandon, once again.
No
Any
problem.
questions? Oh, don't forget to subscribe below. And of course, one more. Dolby Vision, Xbox Series X looks worse on DV than in Dolby Vision on the CT. Yes, Xbox Series X, not recommended for Dolby Vision. Actually, not recommended if you're streaming content. Better to use the native apps on the TV. Okay, goodbye, everybody. Stop the FOMO. Thank you. And don't forget to subscribe to Be the Installer. Bye, all.
Thanks, guys.